Hi, I'm Melanie, and this is Taji, and this is Simple Gourmet's life-changing cooking tips. Today we're going to talk about cooking with fresh herbs. It's always a good idea to have a couple of fresh herbs on hand because they really help enhance any dish. Today we're going to talk about thyme, rosemary, parsley, and basil. Thyme and rosemary, those are great herbs to use at the beginning of any dish, and because the longer they cook, the more flavor you're going to get out of them. Parsley and basil are good herbs to use at the end of a dish because if you cook them too long, they're going to lose their flavor. So let's start with thyme. I love thyme, but sometimes it can be really tedious to take all those little leaves off. The reality is sometimes thyme comes with a really soft stem and other times it comes with a really woody stem. Either way, if you're braising a dish, meaning you're cooking something for a long period of time, forget about pulling the leaves off the stem. Just throw them in your pot. The leaves will fall off naturally, and at the end, you can just pick out the stems. If for some reason you're making a marinade and you really want to get those leaves off, you can take it and pull against the grain of your stem, and then you'll have your little leaves, and it'll be fine. And then your woody stem you can just toss to the side. Okay? Let's talk about rosemary. Rosemary does have a woody stem, so you are going to have to pull those leaves off. You can simply do that by just pulling at them and then keep them in the center of your cutting board. You can leave them whole in your dish, but they're going to be pretty big stems that are in there, so I do recommend that you actually chop them up a little bit. The best way to do that is to actually take them into a little ball and run your knife through them so you have a nice fine little mince. Okay? If you want to actually go and mince it a little further, you certainly can do that. The way I like to chop parsley is I like to actually take it and take all the leaves and actually wrap them up into a nice tight ball. Then what I do is I take my knife and I run my knife through it and I make a nice thin tight little slice all the way through that parsley. By doing that, I've now actually done most of the job of my parsley. This is pretty much chopped. If you're making a salad or so, you could actually probably leave them just like this. But if you want them to have a finer mince, then at that point, I would actually take it, put it into a nice small mound. Using the back 2/3 of my knife, I'm going to actually mince it. When I do this mincing motion, try to just go from the 2 o'clock position to the 4 o'clock position so that you're not actually jabbing your elbow into the side of your stomach. And there's my minced parsley. The way I like to handle basil is I actually do like to take the leaves off the stems. What I do is I roll it up into a nice, tight little cigar. And then I just run my knife through it. And by doing this, I'm making what they call a chiffonade, which is almost like a ribbon-like look. The reason why I like to do this is because basil is one of those really delicate herbs, and the more you cut it, the blacker it gets. So I try to cut it through only once if I can. If for some reason these ribbon-like effects are actually not suitable for your dish, you can go through and do a chop, but I recommend you do that. I recommend you do that as little as possible because you don't want to blacken your basil. Those are my tips for chopping and working with herbs.